Welcome back to Calamity 1 block, where after a full 24 hours of grind from a single block in the sky, I finally ended the last episode by beating the first boss of the game. Let's hope this one goes a little quicker, and I think I now have the exact item I need to make that a reality. With the solidifier dropped by King Slime, I can now make some slime blocks and in turn, a slime workbench and an anvil, allowing me to craft my first combat ready armour set from some lead ore I mined into existence. Calamity gives this knockback immunity, making it one of the best pre-hard mode armours in not only this skyblock, but in pretty much any challenge that isn't a no-hit. Along with the armour I craft a bucket, which will be very useful very soon for a very important purpose. First, however, comes the other major mechanic unlocked by the solidifier: housing. For now this is very much function over form, but I promise I'll build something a little more aesthetic later on. It doesn't take long for the merchant to move in, who I buy a bug net from. Then, while waiting for some other NPCs to spawn, I take the bucket I made down to the underworld to extract some lava from the local slimes. Calamity supposedly replaces these with their own version that doesn't drop lava, but luckily for me they did a pretty bad job of that and the original ones still spawn, albeit a bit more rarely. This one bucket of lava can then be painstakingly duplicated to fill a very wide yet very shallow pool of American Fanta. And for those of you that never left the underworld, this is what Fanta looks like when your country doesn't have a 42% obesity rate. A little tip for anyone else that needs to duplicate entire oceans of lava by hand. You can actually do it automatically if you make a 4-wide floor and pour it on the third block. Wait a second for it to flow towards you, then hold left click on the first block. Much easier than manually clicking with the typical V-shaped block setup.
You may be wondering why I'm making such a long and one deep lava lake. There is a reason for it. There's a method to the madness. Okay, I'm gonna stop there.
With the first of many lava lakes filled, I use my Old Lord Claymore to soar through the skies to find out which side of the world my sulphurous sea is on. The lower gravity of space allows me to recharge the Claymore's dash without losing much height, making it possible to get all the way to the edges of the world without having to place blocks to get there. Unfortunately, if I want to do any building there, then I still have to bridge out to it, but at least I know I'm not wasting time and blocks by heading to the wrong side. Once there, I kill one trasher to free the angler, then let another trasher kill him to get the golden fishing rod. A feature that I'm still amazed is a thing in Calamity. Hi, so it turns out the very morning that I wrote that line, Calamity released a changelog stating that they're removing trasher stacking in the next update, which is a pretty funny coincidence I thought I should mention. Personally, I'm all for the change, but I'll admit I'm pretty glad I started this challenge before it was implemented. Anyway, back to the video. After some Blood Moon bait farming in the underground, I now have everything I need to start fishing. But you may notice a slight problem. I don't have any water. Well, where we're going, we don't need water. You see, the fish in Terraria aren't like the fragile, delicate little creatures we have in the real world. These fish have survived multiple apocalyptic events and endure regular encounters with interdimensional cosmic horrors. So by comparison, a slight dip into some lava feels like nothing but a warm Thursday afternoon. If fish knew what Thursdays or afternoons were. At least that's how I like to think of it. But in reality this is definitely a bug, where fishing in lava or honey that's less than 1 block deep will treat it as if it's water. Surprisingly though, this is the only glitch that's needed for the rest of the run. Everything else is purely intended mechanics. If you've seen any skyblock in the history of Terraria, then you'll know that fishing is a pretty big deal. It unlocks many new accessories, materials, potions, and even a very small chance of getting life crystals from golden crates. My first priority, however, is none of that. Instead, I aim to increase my fishing power as fast as possible to hopefully reduce the overall amount of grinding I'll have to do. That means fishing quests. A lot of fishing quests. There's a rather large problem with that though. I don't exactly have access to many biomes.
Caught in corruption, that's annoying.
In fact, I currently only have the surface, caverns, space, and sulphurous sea, so there's a pretty decent chance that whatever the quest fish is on any given day, I won't be able to catch it.
High test fishing line. We kinda don't need that because I've already got the gold fishing rod which comes with that built in.
Regardless, I push on and complete any quests I can while slowly increasing my health from the odd life crystal from a golden crate.
2 life crystals. That is big. That's very big. That means nurse.
And before you leave that comment, yes, Calamity does add a recipe for life crystals, however that requires stone, and I won't be entering the Stone Age until post-Moonlord. Eventually I get a little tired of fishing so get started on an arena instead. Since I'm in a small world, it doesn't take much to get to the low gravity of space. So along with building above, I also build below, where I find the old man and the promise of something much more exciting than fishing. That night I take him up on his offer and it actually doesn't go all that bad. The Old Lord Claymore dash allows me to dodge decently well while dealing damage, and I even managed to charge up on adrenaline right before I get stuck in his head and very quickly die there.
Okay, yeah, I don't have enough speed. But it actually wasn't that far off, all things considered. Like, if I had some extra buffs, some arena buffs, maybe a little extra health, it would basically have to be a no-hit is the problem. It does look doable. I did beat phase 1.
Honestly, I think with a little bit more practice and some luck, this fight might actually be possible. And so, it becomes another part of my daily routine. In the morning I check the quest fish and complete it if possible. Then through the day I either improve my arena by expanding it, adding torches, or changing my mind and deciding to remove every second platform, or spend that time fishing to very slowly increase my health, before capping it all off by dying to Skeletron, or dying to Skeletron. Throughout this grind I finally hit the magic number I've been aiming for this whole time, 200 health.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. There we go.
Hitting 200 health in Terraria is the equivalent of becoming an adult in real life. You finally feel confident enough to go out and explore the world on your own, can join in on many events that were previously closed off, and there's a 1 in 3 chance each night that you'll feel an evil presence looming over you. Thankfully, unlike the anxiety-inducing, uncertain nature of joining adult life in the aftermath of the global economic shutdown where almost no future is safe from the impending doom that is artificial intelligence, I was actually ready for the Eye of Cthulhu.
I might actually want to use Claymore for more mobility. It also does do decent damage. Oh, that was easy. That was super easy. Why was that so easy? So we've got our Demonite. Oh, we got Death Stare Rod. It's shoddy, but chances of getting that were very low. Shield of Cthulhu, don't know if it's worth using that. But Demonite I can duplicate at least. So let's do that.
Calamity's mining armor set bonus works on Demonite as well, allowing me to renewably farm it just by placing it down and mining it again. This isn't particularly useful right now, but it's good to know it works as my only other source of Demonite will be from the Hive Mind, which, as you might have guessed from the lack of any corruptible tiles, is a long ways off. What isn't a long ways off, however, is the Acid Rain, because it's happening right now. Unfortunately, this also doesn't offer much. The Caustic Tier used to summon it would be very useful to force rain for some extra fishing power, but sadly you need to be standing near water to craft it, and while a shallow pool of lava may trick some fish into thinking it's water, it certainly won't trick me. That means my only real upgrade from taking down the event comes in the form of the Rusty Beacon prototype, a pretty decent sentry that's mainly useful for inflicting the irradiated debuff, which reduces enemy defense and deals damage over time. It should be pretty helpful for taking down the next, and dare I say much more important, event. To get that though, I first have to spend almost 2 entire days waiting for Goblin Scouts to spawn, which for some reason appear to be much rarer than they usually are.
Oh, there we go. I thought I heard a different hit sound.
Once I gather enough tattered cloth from them, I can combine it with some acid wood I got from sulphurous crates to make the Goblin Battle Standard, which I then use to summon a Goblin army.
Oh, and it's not consumable. Perfect. Now I could hide, but these guys are going to be pretty easy, I reckon, so... Unknowingly, the event is possible just by doing this, so I guess I'm just doing this.
The event itself was incredibly easy, and after taking it down I head to the caverns to find the Goblin Tinkerer, finally allowing me to combine some accessories for a much needed power boost.
Okay, GPS, condenses things. I can use those, and then I can also use these for the amphibian. And I can use this, the Sharkron. And I think that's probably all I can condense right now. We may as well give Skeletron another try just now, with what we've got.
Unfortunately, that power boost still isn't enough to take down Skeletron, So the next day I do some fishing in the space layer to catch sky crates. Within these are cloud blocks which I can craft into fledgling wings thanks to a recipe added by Calamity, meaning I don't have to go for the 1 in 40 chance of getting one from sky crates. By this time the Dryad has now shown up thanks to me defeating the Eye, so I buy some acorns from her and get started on a tree farm. I don't have any grass to plant these on, but what I do have is some sulphurous sand I found in some sulphurous crates. This cannot be purified into normal sand by any method I can find, but regardless, it remains one of the most useful blocks I currently have, as I can still plant acorns on it to get a steady stream of acid wood. Unlike the dynasty wood I bought from a travelling merchant but never found a convenient time to mention until now, acid wood is part of the Any Wood recipe group, allowing it to be used as an ingredient for many new items. Chief amongst these are storage components from the Magic Storage mod, which I can combine with gems I got from some crawlers to make a surprisingly early storage system, complete with a crafting terminal and even some demonite storage upgrades courtesy of the Eye of Cthulhu. Setting this up really felt like the culmination of many disparate aspects of the run all coming together to create something much greater than the sum of its parts, which is exactly how I've come to feel about one block as a whole. When I started this playthrough, it was very much a solo project. I had meticulously mapped out the entire progression from start to finish long before starting the first stream, but the one thing I didn't account for in all my planning was other people. Within days of beginning the run, there were already some similarly insane individuals wanting to take on the challenge themselves, with them even doing their own researching, theorising, and testing to see what was possible in this very limited world. One block was no longer a one-man operation, it was now a full-blown community project. Throughout the rest of this playthrough, I'd like to highlight some of the incredibly interesting mechanics discovered by these pioneers. Starting with Nicole, who found that by placing down a large block of ore on the surface, you could actually get an astral meteor to hit after defeating the Wall of Flesh, with it even generating the monolith structure used to spawn Astrum Deus. This will grant access to many helpful items and even a few bosses that were previously locked post-Moonlord. But that's not even the most interesting part. What Nicole actually discovered is that the monolith contains a very specific block that will change the entire trajectory of this playthrough. I don't quite want to spoil that surprise just yet, but I also don't want to keep you waiting for too long, so let's push forward and wrap up hard mode so we can get to the big reveal. The Wall of Flesh in this playthrough is a rather unique challenge, and I don't mean the fight itself. I'm talking about the fact that it requires a completely enclosed area to spawn in and move through, otherwise it will slowly sink below the world and out of reach. The tops and bottoms of this arena also have to be 2 blocks thick for him to even detect them, making the construction quite a slow and tedious project. Now I should clarify that this in no way means the fight is easy, just that I'd prefer to spend multiple hours trying to defeat it in only half the world over the monotony of expanding the arena any further. Finding a weapon that can deal enough damage to defeat the wall in such a small space is quite difficult, especially when you consider how few options are even available in such a limited map. So I take some time to test and consider all of my options. The Star Fury allows me to bypass the Hungry, but only deals around half of the Wall of Flesh's 23,000 health by the time I reach the end of the world. The Demon Scythe deals much better damage, but having to manage my mana makes it much harder to manage my health, with both of them draining pretty quickly. The Bladecrest Oath Sword is truly the simplest weapon in my arsenal, with the only aim required being to make sure my mouse is on the right half of the screen, which in this case happens to be the left. Ironically, this only makes things harder as the Oath Sword fails to differentiate between the wall itself and the Hungry, resulting in many of them breaking off to feast on my remains.
What other weapons have I got? Very few, it would seem. It would be funny if Caustic Croaker Staff was actually the way here. In fact, I'm gonna have to try it just for the meme, because I trashed this in my Sentries Only video. This could go horribly wrong, or this could go horribly right.
Turns out it was horribly wrong, so I instead decide to try another sentry that has worked for me in the past.
Is resummoning the Rusty Beacon the move? It could be. Until all of the Hungries come out and try and kill me. We're kind of just having fun with it at this point, seeing what stupid methods might actually beat the Wall of Flesh. Sticky Spiky Balls could actually work. Receives a small boost in damage and velocity after bouncing off an enemy. Bouncy Sticky Balls could be an interesting option. Oh here, that's actually doing quite a lot of damage. Not bad damage. Not good damage either though.
After testing out nearly every weapon I could think of and not coming close with any of them, I decided to fall back on the one that I knew for a fact would
He's not managing to hit. No, it's not hitting. Blocks are just blocking it.
Turns out the arena Nicole used in her fight against the wall was much taller than mine, so the blood rainbow had plenty of space to rain blood below without any blocks getting in the way. Even the one weapon that was confirmed to work well against the wall wasn't enough without some serious arena reconstruction.
That's actually so sad, yeah.
I was now at a bit of a crossroads. I could either spend the next hour expanding my arena into the other half of hell, or continue trying increasingly niche and unlikely weapons against the wall in the hopes that one of them is secretly overpowered and able to take it down in 30 seconds. But there is another option.
Tonight is the night. Trust.
By this point, I'd been fighting Skeletron almost every night since I unlocked fishing, and dare I say I was actually starting to get pretty good at it. The longer I used the Old Lord Claymore, the more I became accustomed to its very particular style of play, and I must say it's one that I now thoroughly enjoy. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't anywhere near no-hit levels of dodging with it. I was much more at the thanks Xerox that potion sickness ran out when it did kinda level. But if it works, and that night Skeletron fell.
There we go.
Unlocking a very limited yet hopefully very powerful set of weapons with which I could wage war against the wall. But before moving on to hard mode, I want to make good on a promise I made to both myself, and now you earlier in this video, by actually building something a little more aesthetic than some NPC prisons.
Okay, sorry for making you all homeless. Promise you'll get a nice house soon.
I decided to stick with the theme I used for the last build by creating something inspired by the playthrough itself, and considering just how important this one thing was for progression, the decision was clear.
I don't know if that quite looks like what I'm going for. Kinda actually. Question is where the gems go though. There's going to be a ruby gem here, let's say, and then maybe a sapphire here. That and that. How does that look? That looks pretty good, I would say. Of course, once I build this up here, I'm now going to have to basically copy paste it down below. That's maybe it. And then I'll make them like too thick here, like that. And then I need it to come down in a bit at the bottom. Not much though. This could work. How does that look on the map? Yeah, that looks a bit like King Slime, I guess. Two like that. And three like that. And that's where the crown sits. One, two, three. There's the crown, right? That looks right. Is it possible to make a mannequin from acid wood? Interesting question. Any wood, it should be possible with the thing, yeah. I don't think I've got a full set of ninja armor, but I think I've got a gi and the other two parts. Ah, yeah, I do. Okay. But if I just had it, like, here, it's like a nod to the fact that the ninja was inside. Yeah, this I'm quite happy with how this turned out. Looks pretty good. Got a clothier as well. Can get a dash that I'll never use.
With the build complete and the clothier moved in, there was only a handful of things left to do before hard mode. First was disassembling and then promptly reassembling the giant floating sandwich of ore that I'd built, as even more tech had been discovered between streams that made it rather pertinent to move this to the level surface. More on that later. Next, I spend a little more time fishing in the sulphurous sea. You may have noticed that I have a pylon here. However, it hasn't actually worked the entire time it's been there, and I'm beginning to get a little tired of running over here to check fishing quests every morning. Despite being able to buy the pylon just fine, you can't actually use this until there's at least 100 sulphurous tiles nearby. Thankfully, these are somewhat common drops from sulphurous crates, so it doesn't take long to get the pylon fully operational. A side effect of this is that I collect some excess sulphurous sand to turn into glass, which I can then combine with some grenades to make flash rounds, a type of bullet that allows the arms dealer to move in. However, he's not the NPC I'm actually interested in. Once you defeat Skeletron and have enough housing, the bandit can move in. She's intended to be the arms dealer equivalent for rogues, selling many weapons for the class throughout progression. I buy the 3 that are currently available, and after some testing I find that the Kylie works best against the wall of flesh, dealing much more damage than anything else available.
I think this is doing pretty good damage, it's like 400 DPS. Definitely good enough to take it down.
With my weapon secured, it was only a matter of time until the wall would fall.
I think maybe this one, unless I mess it up. I'm if I mess it up, I mean just like that. I think I've got it. There we go. Not got a message about the meteor yet.
Unfortunately, Calamity really struggles to set hard mode in a skyblock like this, leading to the world being in a strange state of limbo where nothing quite works the way it should. Ironically, this is actually a good thing as it allows me to test if the astral meteor impact worked.
Oh, I do see astral ore. This should mean that you had an impact but no monolith. That would be very sad. I will go have a look. Okay, we've got an impact, but no monolith.
Upon trying to save and exit with the world in this state, it will get stuck on setting hard mode, which can only be fixed by hitting Alt F4, reverting the world back to its last save point.
Oh, no astral meteor.
Player data is still saved however, so I still have the wall of flesh drops in my inventory. I make a point of not using them until I'm properly in hard mode though. After adding an extra layer of blocks to the sandwich and expanding the Dynasty Wood wings to hopefully give the monolith room to spawn, I take on the wall of flesh again.
Hey, it actually set hard mode this time. And a star has fallen from the heavens.
With hard mode successfully set, it was time to check if the monolith had properly spawned. And as I fell towards the sandwich, I was very, very thankful to find that indeed it had.
Hey, monolith.
Then after saving a backup of the world, I returned to collect the true treasure I'd gone to all this effort for. You see, what Nicole had discovered hiding within the astral monolith might just be the most important block for the entirety of hard mode. She found dirt. That's right, within every monolith is a grand total of 8 astral dirt. That may not sound like a lot, but surprisingly it's all that's needed to farm dozens of new enemies, harvest exotic plants and materials, summon many new bosses that were previously locked behind Moonlord, and with enough care and patience, even grow entire biomes. But to see all of that, you're going to have to subscribe to the channel and wait for the next episode. Unless of course you'd like to join my Patreon where it will already be uploaded when this one goes public. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.